Did you know Variety, the children's charity, is the entertainment charity started by a group of show business people who found an abandoned baby in a theatre way back in 1928. These kind-hearted performers raised so much money to help the lost child that they began helping other children, and Variety, the children's charity, was born. Read the full story and support the entertainers charity that supports kids in need today. Visit variety.org.au. You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
Paul Sharplin has only been in the comedy game for 15 months, but that hasn't stopped him from competing at Raw Comedy twice and running a comedy room, Guerilla, in the Melbourne suburb of Hawthorn. But as you'll learn from this School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast interview, Paul just likes to jump in headfirst. Newcomers to comedy will enjoy this podcast because we cover the early years of a comedian, which include those dreaded open mic nights, but also how to get onto a poster of a curated room. Paul also shares advice for how to move up the comedy ladder and perform at Melbourne's top comedy club, the Comics Lounge. We also challenge Paul in the Pay It Forward joke challenge with the word barbie, and he lays down the challenge for our next interviewee with his word pedestal clock. Yeah, you're going to have to Google that one. And a reminder for those living in Melbourne and Adelaide who are keen to learn stand-up comedy, our guest comedians for our Melbourne May 27 to 31 and Adelaide June 4 to 8 stand-up comedy courses are the legendary Richard Stubbs and Glenn Nicholas respectively. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get coached by Australia's most experienced comedians. So visit www.schoolofhardknockknocks.com and secure your spot today. And now here's my interview with Paul Sharplin.
Been travelling? You like travelling? Yeah? Anyone been to Fiji?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I got drugged by a shop assistant in Fiji. At least I think it was the shop assistant. It might have been the manager. Who knows? All retail staff look the same to me. And the only reason I was in this little souvenir shop was to buy some gifts for my children, because it's not good enough that I provide food and shelter. I have to buy fucking presents as well. They're lucky I even came back. I'm in a hammock, pina colada and a cigar, and I thought, fuck, they're all over 10 years old. They can get jobs. So the dude says to me, he says, have you ever been in a carver ceremony? And I said, no, I haven't. He said, would you like to? I said, yes. And if you're not aware, carver is a traditional brew, and it's made from the ground-up roots of the carver plant, drunk in a ceremonial fashion, and can be quite a strong hallucinogenic. And so we're sitting at the back in a circle, clap, clap, bullet, drink a bowl, clap, clap, bullet, drink a bowl. I've had 5 bowls of this stuff, all right? And then the man says to me, he says, hey, I'm doing the roll of marijuana cigarette, would you like some? Now, I can't remember what Fijians actually sound like, but he looked like Bob Marley. He might as well fucking sound like him. So I said, yes, I would. So I'm sitting there, I'm smoking this marijuana cigarette, and I'm drinking these bottles of carver, and I get an inclination of what these guys are up to, what their plan is. They're trying to get me really fucking wasted so they can rip me off and rob me. Well, what they don't know is that I've been smoking pot and taking acid for 20 fucking years. This is just free drugs. I was stoked.
Good evening, Paul. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, Murray. How are you?
Well, I'm good. It's a Monday. It's in the evening on a Monday, so it's one of the slower days. I don't know if I've ever interviewed a comedian on a Monday, but there we go. Here it is. Here we are. Well, Paul, some of you know, some of the audience out there know you as a comedian. Others also know you as a room runner.
Yep.
Of Guerilla.
Yep, that's correct. Those are indeed facts.
Yeah, those are amazing facts. Now, not everyone knows what Guerilla is, and spelled in the military form of gorilla, not the hairy chest-beating form. What is Guerilla?
Yep.
Where is it?
It's a comedy room in Hawthorn, Glenferrie Road, the Resistance Bar and Cafe. And we run a curated 2 sets, about 8 comedians, 9 comedians, and an open mic bracket after that. That's on a Wednesday night.
Wednesday nights?
Every Wednesday night.
Every Wednesday. Fantastic.
Yep.
And, well, actually, we'll talk a little bit about Guerilla and curating rooms in a little bit. But let's go back. Now, if I recall correctly, it was a few months back, and I met you at another curated and open mic room, Voltaire, which is in North Melbourne. We met very, very briefly there. And then a couple of weeks later, not too far after, I saw you perform at Raw Comedy Prelim at the Howler, which I think is either Fitzroy or Brunswick, but possibly on the border.
That's right. It was a good night.
Now, you did very well. It was a big audience. I think it was sold out, and you did very well. Didn't get through, but I thought you should have. I think you had one of the strongest sets there, but, it's a competition. Comedy and competition.
Exactly. I don't think they mix that well. It's always objective, isn't it? It's like looking at art. One person will love it, the next person won't. It's not an indication of how good the art is.
Yep.
But it's a good gig. It's a fun gig. It's nice and full. And the more success you have, the bigger the gigs you get.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Well, going back on your comment, I mean, a kindergarten finger painting versus a Van Gogh, for example, obviously complete ends of a spectrum. I have seen the equivalent of finger painting stand-up comedy, where people have got up there and you've just gone, oh my God. So there needs to be some form of grading, whether the best of, whether you can say you're the best. Look, it's a debate that when you win it, you're like, yeah, it's fantastic. And if you come second,
exactly right. And once you make a preliminary final or a state final, everyone's a pretty good comic at that level.
Yeah, true.
So it depends on what the judges are looking for, what they think will be strong in the final. If they have a particular direction of their own liking that they want to go, they will comics that would suit that particular direction or opinion, And you'd have to factor in performance, stagecraft, confidence, those sorts of things as well.
Yep.
And the relevance of the material, I suppose, but that's a lot in their eyes.
True. And, I was at Raw Comedy, the final, the national final at the Melbourne Town Hall, and it was a very eclectic group of finalists. So you would have to make sure that of all the states that are pushing towards a representative comedian for their state, that there is diversity in that group, which possibly could work against some people. Well,
Well, it's new talent. Raw is, by its very definition, is new talent. This is the new talent, the bit that's coming through.
Yeah,
and so they would want that to represent new streams of comedy and concept and context as well.
Right.
So they're not going to get 12 guys like you and me doing straight stand-up. 6 guys, 6 girls just doing straight stand-up sort of thing. There's going to be a little bit of variation in material and performance.
I did see a guy demolish a pineapple on stage.
Yes. Dave, he's good.
Yeah, and I was a bit disappointed that didn't get to the finals there and get filmed, I think, for the SBS.
Yeah, exactly. And see, and that's your view of it. And the person sitting beside you might have had a totally different view of what they thought was good. And the 3 people sitting up the back with the clipboards would have had their view as well. So I don't think you should read too much into Raw from a performer's point of view. If you've got up there and done a good set and you're happy with yourself, you've done as well as you can. That's all you can do. That's all you're in control of. So just treat it as that. My number one prize would have been that gig at the town hall. That would have been first prize for me, just to be able to do that gig in front of all those people. So if your goal, like I said in the beginning, is just to do good gigs, then you can get some good gigs out of Raw.
Yeah. Well, you talking about Raw, you are relatively raw. I believe you started around January last year, which would bring us to about 15 months in the game.
Yeah, that was Raw again. My very first gig was a heat of Raw.
Jesus, you just go big or go home.
Yeah, well, I used to go to a comedy workshop, and one of the guys there said, "Who's doing Raw?" And all these people put their hand up, and I thought, "What the hell is Raw?" So I quickly got on the phone, checked it out on the web, and thought, "Yep, beauty," and entered. And that was on the Tuesday, and on the Wednesday I got an email saying I had a heat on the Saturday.
Wow. That's amazing.
So I had 3 days to come up with 5 minutes, and at that point I'd barely had 45 seconds.
Yeah.
So, so I got 5 minutes together and got up, and probably wasn't a great 5 minutes.
Well, I wasn't there, but I imagine it was also, pretty terrible compared to what you did this year, though. This year I did see you were very funny, and you had it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
No, it was good. I like it. Well, I learned from that first gig. I learned straight up. I think you have to learn all the time. Got to be fairly self-critical, understand what's going on.
Yeah. Now, what got you into comedy in the first place? You said you just went to, I think, you're talking about the Comics Lounge, I believe, in North Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
They used to run a fairly casual workshop, didn't they?
Workshop on a Tuesday.
What got you there?
I always liked comedy, obviously. I've always been a big fan of comedy and comedians and humour. And I was down here working, because I come from Queensland. I've only been down here like 3 years, 2.5 years.
Yep.
And I'll be listening to the radio all day, and I hit on the radio station Triple M, who had Mick Malloy, and the festival came on. I listened to all these comedians and everything, and I thought, and I went through a couple of shows, and the more I thought about it, and I'm a bit older, you haven't said that to anybody yet on this podcast, that I am a little bit older than your normal new comedian.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I can do that. How do I do that? And so I sat down, tried to write a few jokes. I'd already told other people's jokes,
Yep.
And got a good laugh and enjoyed that feeling. And so I thought I'll sit down and see what jokes I can write. And I also had a thought in my head for quite a while before then that I've led a fairly interesting life, Murray. I mean, I've been places, man. I've seen things.
Yeah.
And been things as well.
You have been things.
And I always thought that it'd make a good story. It's entertaining. My life as I've seen it has been very entertaining. It's not the usual life one would live,
Wow.
But who wants to read a book, an autobiography, a funny autobiography by means, from a cleaner from Frankston? You're not selling a copy. So you got no platform to get the story out, which I thought was interesting.
Right.
And the two came together. I thought I could be a comedian and be funny. What to be funny with? This story that I always thought would be entertaining. And that's the basis of my comedy, really.
Yep.
It's an interesting life with a humorous look at it.
Well, it sounds
pretty
like
irreverent.
I mean, it sounds like you're continuing to make your life interesting with the running of Guerilla and being, really at the coal face of stand-up comedy here in Melbourne, at least, because you're seeing the freshest faces and the newest talent. Yep. Can I ask? People are questioning. You've been things. Can I ask? There's a rabbit hole there. I'm not going to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but can you tell me or be explicit in what you mean by that?
It's hard to define. I've been a different person at times, insofar as led a completely different lifestyle to the lifestyle I'm living now.
Okay.
Like probably more in being things and more of occupations.
Right.
Like I've been a meat worker. I've been used to drive for prostitutes.
There we go. That's what I wanted.
I've done end security, hung around with some pretty hard people back in the day.
Yeah.
And lived a fine line. I was pretty lucky not to have gone to jail.
Yep.
But you reform from all that, you have your kids, they're growing now, and you move through all those phases of your life. And I never did anything to hurt anyone or any stealing or anything like that, but just lived on a seedier side of life sort of thing for a while.
Right. There you go. Would not have known that from looking at you. There you go. Although I haven't seen your back. You might have the Yakuza tattoo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I got the triads on the leg just to keep them both safe if they ever come looking for me. But
yeah, right. Right, that's good. Yeah, tattoo your name all over your limbs just so they can identify you.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone
anyway,
a little deep.
Stray.
Let's get out of this rabbit hole. So So people, again, look, 15 months isn't a long time in comedy, and people who listen to this podcast are themselves fresh. So perhaps the real value that I wanted to get out of this interview was your experience running rooms. And let's go back to Guerilla. So Guerilla in Hawthorn, which is it's a suburb, somewhat inner city suburb of Melbourne. Yes. Yep. It is a suburb. Also a fine football team as well. They do very well.
Apparently so.
In Aussie rules.
They told me I had to pick a football team down here when I came down. They said, you have to pick a football team. Yep. I thought, beauty, I'll be cool. I'll pick Carlton.
Ah.
So that's worked for me, hasn't it?
Well, in terms, yeah, but going back to your mafia roots, maybe that was the only choice you had.
Well, you know.
I'm a loon. Well, so Guerilla is both a curated and open mic. So open mic, of course, means you turn up and how do you run it? Do people come up and write their name down first come, first served, or is it in the hat, or what?
Yep, no, they just write them down on a list. Occasionally, somebody will ask me whether they can write another person's name down. We might let them write one other person's name down, but you have to be there to sign your name.
Yep.
And then when the two curated sets finish, we have a bit of a break, and then we change MCs and do the open mic section. Yeah. And I try to get everyone through, give them 4 minutes. You know, if it's quiet night, if there's only 4 or 5 open mic sign-ups and we've got 3/4 of an hour, I'll say, do 6-7 minutes, do all your stuff, see how you go. You know.
Well, that's good.
But mostly, and a lot of the time we get a lot of drop-ins from around other open mic rooms on a Wednesday night. A lot of good comedians come down late to have a little spot, because we've usually got a reasonable crowd as well.
What time is the open mic in particular?
About 9:30, 9:15, 9:30 till 10:30.
Okay. But sign up at 7, yeah?
Yeah, sign up at 6:37. Yeah, usually at 6:30 to sign up. And so I've had 3 good comics sitting on the stairs waiting for a go, and it's 10:20. I'll say to each one of them, I say, right, 3 jokes each, that's it. Give us your best 3 and get out. And they're happy with that, you know.
Yep.
Any time's good time.
Yep, that's fantastic. And that's open mic, and that's after the curated. So let's talk about curated for a while. So obviously, as I'm using the wrong word here. As a new comedian, open mic is you know, you have to do it. You have to get out there. You have to hit as many open mics as possible. But then you're moving towards a curated room. So what exactly is a curated room?
Well, a curated room is you'd message the room runner and ask for a spot. And so you get a spot locked in, could be 2, 3, 4 weeks out. And when they do their advertising, they'll put your name on the poster. And they're usually rooms that draw a better crowd because they've been able to advertise through social media and local event news that they have a comedy show going, and they usually get good names. So, and there's a couple of rooms out there that get better names. And so if you do good at these opportunities that you get in the curated rooms, then you might get offered better curated rooms.
Yep. Better. So there is a bit of an internal competition. How do you know, where does Guerilla fall into the curated rooms?
We're probably near about the bottom, mid to the bottom, I'd say. You have a couple of open mic rooms, just straight open mic sign up. Mm-hmm. And then you have curated and open mic. Yep. I can think of probably 3 of them, maybe. And then you have straight curated rooms. Yep. And then you have bigger curated rooms on a better night, like on a Thursday night.
Right,
or
right.
On a Monday night, like the Spleen is a...
Yes.
That's a difficult room to get, you know. He'll give you a chance, though, if he sees you and thinks you're any good. There's no doubt.
Yep. Oh, that's good. So there is a progression then in...
Yeah, exactly.
The life of a comedian.
Yeah, exactly right.
Fantastic. And I guess ultimately, how does the Comics Lounge fall in? Because I know that you've performed at the Comics Lounge 3 times. Yep. Where does that fall into that list of... Is that one of the highlights of curated rooms?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the number 1 room. That's it.
That's the number 1 room.
That's the number 1 room. That's rated one of the top 10 comedy rooms in the world. So.
Yes. So I've heard. Very good marketing, by the way. I'm a lover of marketing, and the fact that they put your name behind you when you perform is fantastic. Cause it's It's great for branding.
No, that feels good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fun. Doing that, if you get a chance to do that, Reen, that's huge fun.
That's huge. Well, I'm going to split this question into two parts. And the first one now is, how does someone come to you, that's Paul Sharplin, and get an opportunity, not an open mic, but a curated? You're already doing open mics. You've got a bit of a name out there. What's the best way to get on the curated ticket at Guerilla in Hawthorn?
Do good gigs. You know, if you get on other bills and we see you and people talk about you, come down and do open mic at Guerilla and do a good job. And that's basically it. You know, you've just got to be doing a good job. Whenever you get the opportunity, you've got to do the best job you can, and people notice.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Should you be sitting in the audience for 3 or 4 times before you get up on stage?
Oh, I wouldn't think so. I never did. I just rocked straight up. Oh, this is it. Okay, there's the list. Put my name down. Have a go.
Well, that's for open mic. What about curated though? How do I get you to write my name? Hypothetically, I don't do stand up, but how do I get my name on those super duper amazing posters that get produced by somebody in your team? They're fantastic. How do I get on that?
Well, like I said, you're doing good comedy around town. Like if I see you doing good comedy, or friends of mine say, hey, did you see such and such? They're really good. And then such and such sends me a message and say, hey, can I have a spot? And we already know that, you know, you're doing good. Then I'll give you a spot. If I see you, like I've had a couple that I've seen in open mics that I've been doing open mics with, and I think they're getting better. So I'd say, come and do a spot at Guerilla.
Yep.
And they've had some other spots in other places. You know, room runners talk amongst themselves.
Yep.
And you see the posters, and it's usually a bit, you know, when you see all the posters, you know, I know all the names of all the comics out there. If I see a new name that I don't know of, I'll make it a point to try and see that person perform.
Oh, right.
You know, and if I like it, not that my opinions, I'm not the barometer of what's funny in Melbourne comedy, that's for bloody sure. But if the crowd liked it and they were up for it, then, you know, I'm interested to have them do a spot at Guerilla for the same reason, because the crowd like it.
Yep.
I might like it too, I might not, but if the crowd likes it, then and consistency as well, you know, consistently doing a good job whenever you get the opportunities. I mean, I could name all the rooms where at about the same level where you want to see people doing a good job.
Yep.
There's a couple of difficult ones there. And, we'll give you a spot at Guerilla, but it's not a high-profile spot to get a spot at Guerilla. You know, it's not like Crab Lab, Catfish, Rochester, Spleen, that sort of thing, you know, Kings of Comedy.
Okay.
Kings of Comedy level, just put it the next level.
Oh, well, it's getting up there. I certainly hear great things. There was, you were telling, you did come into one of our classes, the School of Hard Knock Knock stand-up comedy class, and you shared a story with us about someone who had, I think they'd come in as an open micer, and rather than wait around, there was a bit of a mix-up with the timings. Anyway, they left, they didn't perform, and they got a bit shirty with you. But in that room, on that particular night, there was actually another room runner.
Yeah, from the Comics Lounge.
From the Comics Lounge, right. Doug Chappell Jr. Doug Chappell was there, I believe.
Yes.
And, Doug Chappell, we've interviewed him on this podcast, and he missed out on seeing this guy perform, obviously a golden opportunity missed because of a bad attitude.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we had a reasonable night, and this guy signed up early, 6:37, so we had the 2 curated sets. And even though it's disappointing, a lot of the time, a lot of audience will leave.
Yeah.
After the second curated set,
Sure.
They've seen the good comics. They might not want to stick around for the open mic comics, you know, which is not happens all the time, but it does happen a fair bit. And as an open mic comic, you get a bit downhearted with that, but you can't really. You have to sort of just push through. It doesn't matter. You've got your time. You've got to do it. 2 people or 20 people. And so this guy waited, and he was signed up probably third. And Dougie was there with his mate, and his mate was going up in the open mic, and Doug was just there to hang out, you know, and help his mate with his comedy and that, which is pretty cool. He's such a lovely bloke. But if he saw someone that stood out, that had extra talent, extra ability, he'd have a chat to them and say, hey, you know, I'll give you a chance on a rookie night or something like that. So there's always that small opportunity that might be the contact you might need to make at that particular time. And so we got to that point in the open mic, and the first one went on. There's only about 3 or 4 people there. Doug was one of them, and the second one, and then this guy came up to me and says, "Geez, you could have put me on earlier when there was a bit more crowd.
Right.
There's no one down there now. What's the point?" And stormed off.
Dear me.
And I thought, well, there you go. It may not have. It's probably the chances are quite small that it would have been noticed and given a better spot, but the chance is still there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have no chance if you don't perform, right?
Yeah, and you've got to make contacts. You've got to make friends in this game,
Well, true.
If you don't talk to people, make contacts with them, check them out when they're gigging, give support, take support. They're all the things that help you get ahead as well.
Yeah, sure. I know Woody Allen says that 80% of success is just turning up.
Yeah, exactly right.
Obviously that guy didn't do that.
Yeah.
And let's continue that question on to, you said the best room, the best curated room, and that's the Comics Lounge. How does someone, you perform there 3 times, so how do I, and again, I'm listening, the listeners of this podcast, that could possibly be their long-term goal, to get a spot at the Comics Lounge with their name behind them, to a fantastic audience, a large audience. Any advice?
You got to be good, and I'm not saying I'm good. See, that's hard. Because I first, well,
so humble, Paul. So humble.
I've only been at it for such a short time. I'm a baby in this game. I might have done some good rooms and everything, and had some. I don't know whether there's a lot of luck. I don't think anyone's given me any favours, that's for sure. But it seems to have worked out reasonably well.
Well, you are funny. I've seen you. I can vouch.
Thank you. But and so because I used to do the workshop there, and they chose a couple out of the workshop to have a go.
And there you go.
And so I had my first gig there on a Tuesday night because of that, and it was a good gig, and I actually recorded it.
Yep.
And so the comics workshop finished, but I still used to go there and hang out, watch a show and that sort of thing every now and again. I used to go there on the Tuesdays because that was the night I used to go there for those first 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of became like a staple, and had friends as well. And I asked for another spot, and took a couple of weeks to still doing shows around town, not stopping gigging, and sent the video in with a recommendation from another person, and they gave me another chance.
Yep.
And
beauty.
So goes from there, and then I was asked to do another one a few months after that, and I was there again, and the opportunity came up, and there was about 350 people there, so it was pretty big.
Wow. That's
and
great.
I was pumped. And I had 2 gigs that night. I actually had to bump the second gig back a bit to get that first one done, and then race over to Paran to do another spot at about 10:30.
At the Attic, was it?
Which went... No, that was at Lucky Cock.
Lucky Cock. Good.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
that's
that
amazing.
went all right too.
So to summarise your journey, you got to know the people. You built a relationship with those people. Yeah.
I built a relationship, exactly, and did lots of spots. I did lots of gigs around town. Like I was doing the good rooms you mentioned. I was getting spots there, doing a reasonable job, because you don't have to smash every time you go on, but you certainly can't bomb either. You have to be reasonably consistent.
And you said you sent a video. Was this a mobile phone video or a professional video? What did you send?
No, it was just a mobile phone video.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just edited to the best parts of that early set.
Yep.
Because not all of it was great, but there were some really good parts in there.
Oh, yeah.
And they got a great response, so the crowd liked it, which was the main thing.
Yep.
And like I said before, when you're working at all the rooms, when you're getting up, going to the open mics, pushing for spots, hustling, you've got to support these rooms, the Attic and the Spleen and Quick Bites and all those. You've got to go there, watch some shows, meet some people, put your hand up and keep getting little opportunities as you go by doing good shows. And the only way you're doing good shows is because the audience like it.
Yep.
So the people that run the rooms know they can put you on and the audience will like it.
Yep.
And so you've just got to keep pushing. And the more you do that, and the more success you have in all these other rooms, these subsidiary rooms almost, your reputation within your circle, not outside it, but within your peer group grows, and that gets to the runners of the rooms. you know. So people are saying, hey, have you seen this one? They're doing really good. Have you heard their latest joke or whatever, you know?
Yeah, right.
You've got to immerse yourself in the scene. You can't just sort of try and be like a fighter bomber and just drop in every now and again and expect to build your way up through the scene. You can't do that. You've got to immerse yourself.
Immerse yourself, yeah. I get it very much. Wow, Raw Prelim, everyone knows you. You're running a very good room, got a great reputation as someone who's supporting comedy, which is also fantastic. So, well, thank you very much for that. And we hope to see you regularly at our course, popping in and saying a few words to the newcomers. You
invite me anytime you invite me, I'll try and come down for sure. I sort of feel, even though I'm a newcomer myself, I see a lot of lost souls in the wandering around the comedy rooms, you know, with a little bit of potential, not quite know how to get where they need to go. So
right.
If I have an opportunity to help or to guide a little bit, I don't mind at all. You know, you always got to give a bit back.
Yeah, that's right.
Everything I've got out of it is 100 times more than I ever thought I would.
Yep. Oh, that's great.
So...
And so what's the next plan? What's the near future in terms of comedy for you?
Keep gigging. Working on some newer material, changing some material up.
Yep.
So just trying to work that in as I can, and just keep getting good rooms. Just keep pushing to get good rooms every time I get an opportunity.
Yep.
Do a good job. Get on with everybody. 3 things you need to do, Maury, to get on in this game. Mm-hmm. You have to get on with people. You have to always turn up when you say you will, and you have to be funny. And you've got to be doing at least 2 out of those 3 things all the time.
Well, Paul, thank you very much for this interview. There is one last thing that I need to ask you, and that is a new segment, a new section of these podcasts where I ask the comedian that I'm interviewing, I give them a topic, and the topic comes from the previous episode, and then you have to come up with a joke. Now, to be fair, I haven't given you much time to prepare. So, but your topic from last week, which was Ross Voss from Adelaide, who also runs a room, Cranker Comedy, is Barbies.
Barbie.
Can you make me laugh about Barbies?
Well, yeah, Barbie doll. My daughter used to have Barbie dolls.
Okay, yeah, good tangent. Yeah, zig and zag. Yeah, good.
Oh, you're talking barbecues. Oh, no, I've got nothing on barbecues. I've got Barbie dolls.
Well, either way, I think you said Barbies, and that...
I can remember, I don't really know whether it's a joke, but there was this, I was observing my kids, because I've got a daughter and 2 sons, and the 2 sons are older than the daughter, only by a couple of years.
Yep.
And they're in the backyard, and she had her little fort, and they had their fort, and she had Barbie... about 3 Barbies, a couple of Diva dolls, a Madison doll, and they're all having tea. And the boys had Avenger Man and Spider-Man and Superman and Batman dolls, and they're all up there doing their shit.
Yeah.
But in the back of the girls' cubby was a Ken doll. And the boys came down with their Action Man dolls and stole the Ken doll. Because they figured that the Ken doll was really pissed off having to hang around with all these women and wanted to come out and hang out with all these men. And so Ken's out there fighting wars with Avenger Man and Spider-Man, and little Sam Comanche must have been at 8 years old, and she just abused the shit out of them and took her Ken back.
And I think in the in Action Man, it's Don't Ask, Don't Tell, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Is it? Don't ask, don't tell. Ken would have been saying it.
He would definitely not. No, you can join the army.
And I just thought if Ken was alive, how unhappy would he be? He finally gets his chance to hang out with all the boy dolls, has to go back and serve tea for all the girl dolls.
Fair enough. Oh, nice story, nice story. Well, now, without giving you too much time to think about it, what topic, what theme are you going to give to the next comedian that I interview? Be as random as you like.
Pedestal clocks.
Pedestal clocks. I've no idea what that means, but I'll definitely be giving a heads up to the next interviewee that we have so they can at least Google it. Well, pedestal clocks it is, and that'll be the topic for the next episode. Paul Sharplin, thank you very much for your time. Both a comedian, successful comedian, such a short amount of time, a room runner for Guerilla, and I've met you, and a super nice guy too, very supportive.
No problems, mate. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, mate. Anytime.